Championship will be here before you know it, and wouldn't you know, it's old pals, the Bills, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs once again. I'm Kevin Carroll. Welcome to Buffalo End Zone Podcast. Andy Young with us as usual, and Leif, our buddy over in Kansas City who works for Spectrum News KC, joining us. He's been covering the Chiefs for years, has the all inside scoop as we get ready to dive into this. Leif, thanks for joining us.
Oh, pleasure. Good to see you guys.
All right. Obviously, the big storyline off the top of this, guys, is you have the Chiefs looking to make history, going for a three-peat. You have the Buffalo Bills, Andy, the hurdle, the Kansas City Chiefs, that they just haven't been able to get past when the playoffs come. And so that's the big, and for this one, it's a trip to the Super Bowl. They've met each other in the division rounds the last couple of years, the last time in the AFC Championship way back in 2020, the COVID season.
Yeah, this is what it's all about for the Buffalo Bills, and it's really been that way for the last 3 or 4 years. Can they get over the hump of the Kansas City Chiefs? Can they do what it takes to knock off the behemoth that is the Chiefs? And we can all say that they're pretty much, at this point, regarded as a dynasty. They are the gold standard in the NFL right now. When you win 3 Super Bowls in a few years there, I think you earn that right. And the Bills just have not done enough to get past the Chiefs. So they are thinking about that. They know about what the past is against the Chiefs. It's in the back of their heads. They've said it. However, they believe this is a new team, a new season, and it really is. They can do what they need to do to get over that hump and get to the Super Bowl for the first time since the glory days of the Buffalo Bills back in the 1990s.
Leif, here it is, plain and simple right here. Bills recently have owned the Chiefs during the regular season, but come the playoffs, they can't do it. I mean, there was, Leif, legit talk out here by Bills fans to lose the regular season game on purpose because odds would say you'd then win in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So not the case. On your end, how are we looking at this game out in Kansas City?
I think Kansas City fans are looking at just the opposite. You can go ahead and win the regular season matchup. Chiefs fans will take the playoff matchup, and that's exactly how they like to have it play out. They're two great teams, and Andy Reid has such great respect for the Buffalo Bills, obviously, and Josh Allen and what he's been able to do. Two of the best quarterbacks in the league that are going to go head-to-head for years to come. They've had great matchups in the past. I expect this one will be another great one in Kansas City. Maybe a slight edge to the Chiefs. The fact that Chiefs don't have that elephant on their back, slight edge to the Chiefs perhaps. But, again, it's a new season, new game. I expect a great game on Sunday.
Leif, what is it about this Kansas City team that always allows them, seemingly, to win on the big stage, to win in those close games, to have that winner's mentality and to do it time and time again? Is it just the players they have? Is it an overall culture, mentality? Like, what is it that allows them to be so successful in these big situations?
Yeah, I go back when Joe Montana came to the Chiefs in '93 and lost to the Buffalo Bills up there in Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. The story of Montana on that Monday night when he beat John Elway in Denver. John Elway was a big figure over the Chiefs, always beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Montana goes into the huddle in the final 2 minutes and he says, guys, relax. This is what I do. Okay. And that gave the Chiefs, whether that team was not as good a team as the Chiefs had in the past, but it gave them a confidence. And I think Patrick Mahomes has done the same thing for these Chiefs teams. They know that guy will do whatever it takes to get a win. Now, Patrick Mahomes isn't blocking field goals. He isn't stepping on the end line of the end zone to pull out a win, but there's something magical about that guy, and I think it gives them a confidence that we have Patrick Mahomes. Give us 13 seconds, we'll get the win. There's just something about Patrick Mahomes and that confidence that it is a rainbow, if you will, over this team since Mahomes has been here.
So, Leif, people out here will say the Chiefs aren't putting up big numbers on offense this year. They're winning fluky games. This team is ripe for the picking for a Bills team that picked up momentum during the season after they came into the year with everyone saying, oh, it's a rebuild time for the Bills. They were on fire most of the year. In the Chiefs, we'll go with the national picture here. Every game the Chiefs won If you're not a Chiefs fan, you're like, ugh.
They're lucky. They're lucky.
Right.
I'll tell you what the difference is. This team has changed its stripes a little bit. They're not putting up the pinball numbers that Mahomes we're used to seeing with him with MVP type numbers. This defense is so much better than they have been in the past. Steve Spagnuolo has done a great job. How that guy is not going to be a head coach at the end of this year, I don't know how that's going to happen. He has done a remarkable job with this defense. This linebacking core is as good as the Chiefs have had in 50 plus years when they had Bobby Bell and Willie Lanier. I mean, this is a team that really rides on its defense, and Patrick Mahomes has played this perfectly in complementary football. Patrick Mahomes was a little loose with the football the first half of this season. The Chiefs have not had a turnover now, I believe, in 8 straight games. It looked like he was going to throw one in the end zone when he was tackled, and he hit Kelsey there. But Mahomes is taking care of the football, and this is a little different Chiefs team than what you've probably seen in the past. And in some ways, they're better because they can rely on that defense. That defense has been very, very, very good.
And they're very healthy right now. Is that right, Leif?
Yes. Yeah, as healthy as they've been. Everybody in Kansas City was worried about. Basically, they had 24 days between meaningful games. They played the JV against Denver, had the week off, then came back, and you saw a little bit of rust, I think, against the Texans. But it allowed Mahomes, who's been banged up with an ankle, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce. It allowed the veterans to really get healthy. They got Watson back in the secondary with that extra week. So, yes, the Chiefs were not at their sharpest against the Texans, but in the long run, I think they're a better Chiefs team because of that rest.
When we talk about regular season versus the playoffs, and I'm not just talking about Bills Chiefs here, I think this, to me, is the second year in a row the Chiefs look like they kind of just got into the playoffs, but then it's like another switch comes on. You mentioned Travis Kelce held to just 2 catches against the Bills during the regular season back in November. You sure as heck know he's not getting 2 catches in the AFC Championship game. It just seems like there's another level, almost like people, I think, used to say this about the Patriots when Tom Brady was there. They just wanted to get to the postseason, then kick it into another gear. And the Chiefs seem to be the team that is now the one doing that on a regular basis.
Well, the talk, people were wondering, is this it for Kelce? He's looking slow. Juju Smith, Schuster, DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, 4 targets for them combined against the Texans, no catches. But what that did was it left Kelce wide open in the middle. And so the Chiefs were able to take advantage. Kelce is still maybe a half a step slower than the Kelce that you've seen over the past 7 years or so, but still very, very much a part of this offense when he's allowed to be. And I think that's what we were excited to see about this Chiefs offense that we didn't really get to see against the Texans was, they lost Rashee Rice early in the year. Hollywood Brown just came back at the end of this season. We didn't really see what this Chiefs offense could do. Now, with 3 really viable wide receivers plus Kelce, now that gives you weapons aplenty across that offense. I was really excited to see what would happen against the Texans. A little bit of rush there. They try to take the wide receivers away and it left Kelce open. I'm really interested to see what the Bills do with their defense and how they approach this Chiefs offense, because you can't cover them all, right? You can't double cover them all. And I think this Chiefs offense is ready for an explosion. As good as that defense has been, the Chiefs finally have some weapons now. Xavier Worthy has really found his place in this offense. You've got a lot of weapons now that should be running at full steam. And I think I'm more excited about that offense against the Bills on Sunday, I think, than anything.
It should be interesting, Andy, on the Bills side of things here. You go back to that divisional round last year, the Bills defense was beat up. They had a guy playing linebacker who was on his way to Disney World or the Caribbean when he got the call, we need you to come back to the team.
A.J. Klein, yes.
A.J. Klein, because they didn't have anyone there. This time around, it looks like the Bills are healthier on defense with a couple of question marks, but some good news at least early in the week for Bills.
Yeah, there are some question marks. They are much healthier overall as a team, both defensively and on offense as well, going into this game than they were last year going into the Chiefs game. They have Terrell Bernard back, their star middle linebacker and captain of their defense. He's good to go. Matt Milano is back and played very well last game against the Ravens. There is a little bit of concern there with Milano because he's dealing with what Sean McDermott termed hamstring soreness. He was limited in Wednesday's walkthrough, so we'll see how that goes. Taylor Rapp, their safety, he is a little more on the fence this week, I think. Did not practice Wednesday, dealing with a hip injury. And Christian Benford, one of their starting cornerbacks, also, he's dealing with a concussion but was limited in practice, so that's a little bit of a good sign. If they're limited on Wednesday with a concussion, usually it trends towards them having a chance to play. But generally, in the grand scheme of things, this Bills defense is much more equipped, I think, to deal with what the Chiefs present. And we heard Leif rattle off all those weapons that they have, and it feels like this Chiefs defense is due for one of those big games and kind of explosions. But to have Terrell Bernard out there, to have Taron Johnson, to have these guys back healthy, hopefully Milano, from a Bills fan's perspective, is good to go in this game. That's a big difference than it is to, say, having Dorian Williams, your third-string linebacker, and A.J. Klein coming off the streets a couple of weeks before you're playing the Chiefs. Now, Travis Kelce has had his way against the Bills many times in the playoffs. That doesn't mean they're going to be able to stop him, but it certainly gives him a better chance.
But that brings up the point, Leif, is pick your poison for this Bills defense in Travis Kelce or Xavier Worthy, I think, in this game, as far as what are you going to do, who are you going to focus on as far as those weapons who Mahomes is going to look to. I know in Buffalo, if Xavier Worthy goes off, this place is going to go bananas because of the trade that was made during the draft, where the Bills end up with Keon Coleman, who had a decent rookie season of his own, and Xavier Worthy, who the Chiefs took, who everyone pulled their hair out of their head out here.
We wondered as we're watching the draft, why would the Bills ever make a trade with the Kansas City Chiefs again? I mean,
unbelievable.
Why would you help maybe your biggest opponent in the AFC? I understand how it happens in the NFL, but no, I think you're exactly right. I'm a big Milano fan. I love watching that guy play. He's always the wild card to me on that Bills defense. But you're exactly right. And in Worthy in the beginning, I think was just kind of a speed guy, and the Chiefs were trying to figure out how to use him. I mean, he didn't really show great hands in the beginning. He made a great catch last week against the Texans. He's really coming around as a wide receiver. They were trying to find any way to get him the ball, a lot of end arounds, a lot of jet stuff in the backfield. But he's become a true threat as a wide receiver now. And as we say, I mean, Hollywood Brown has really yet to find his stride back with this team, and you just kind of keep thinking that it's coming. And of course, with Kelce in the middle, and don't forget, Mahomes is not the Josh Allen scrambler, but Mahomes can make some plays with his feet. Mm-hmm. And when teams go man and they turn their backs and cover those wide receivers, Mahomes can take advantage of that. He's like I say, he's faster than you think he is, and when he really is, he's an effective runner. So that's another edge to that offense, I think, that you may see on Sunday.
It'll be very interesting to see how the Bills line up in this game throughout the course of the game. We saw against Baltimore, which is a completely different animal altogether, them really break their tendencies. The Bills typically zone defense, two deep safeties, like to play nickel with Taron Johnson and two linebackers, but the Bills were much more willing to blitz, to play three linebackers to sell out for the run. And I don't think it's exactly the same type of game plan that you need to have to try to sell out to stop a Derrick Henry. But I do think the Bills have found something that they might be able to throw some wrinkles at the Chiefs this week that maybe they're not expecting or haven't seen.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Bills were focused on Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. I don't think you really have that with Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, who are good running backs on their own, but again, this seems like more of a game. I mean, these two teams are so familiar with each other that whatever the Bills did against the Ravens that got them to hang on to the win is just thrown out the window and the team's moving on. Leif, the Chiefs' run game doesn't jump off the page to you.
No, and Pacheco is back and healthy now, and he's had to start really the last 2 weeks. I personally think Kareem Hunt has been the better running back. He was a great pickup for the Chiefs during the season. Of course, was a Chief before. The Chiefs cut him. He goes to Cleveland. He comes back now, and he really has found a second life. And I think one of the keys for this Chiefs team this season has been the play of Kareem Hunt. He is not a Derrick Henry, but don't sleep on him. That guy is a tough, hard runner, and he is 3 or 4 yards. As we always say, he's always falling forward. He's always fallen forward. Pacheco, to me, is more of a change of pace guy. Kareem Hunt is a hard-nosed, right up the middle kind of guy that will get you a cloud of dust in 3 or 4 yards on every carry. I think really an underrated running back. Pacheco has not been quite the Pacheco that we saw before he got hurt. But it's a nice 1-2 punch for the Chiefs. The running game does not grab the headlines. Andy Reid a lot of times goes away from that running game, it seems. A lot of times the Chiefs get kind of pass heavy. But if they can get that running game going, watch out, because Kareem Hunt is undervalued, I think, around the NFL right now.
Andy, on the flip side, the Bills are turning into, well, they're balanced, but they've been leaning on the run game a lot. I mean, James Cook doing really well against two of the top run-stopping defenses in the league in the playoffs so far this year. And then you add a Josh Allen to that and the passing game, which I think we're going to be seeing them go more towards the passing game in this one.
It's interesting because this is a Bills team that has shied away from what they were in the Brian Dable years and the early part of the Ken Dorsey years. A lot of 4 wide, 5 wide, throw the ball 70% of the time. They're much more balanced. In fact, they're one of the more balanced teams in the league, running the football more than almost anybody except for the Ravens and a few other teams. And the way that James Cook has come on, the way they've been able to utilize Ty Johnson, and the way they've been able to use Ray Davis, all three of those guys, has really taken some of the pressure off Josh Allen, especially because the Bills don't have a Stephon Diggs, an alpha male number 1 receiver like they've had in years past. The fact that they're able to take some of the pressure off Allen to grind games out, to slow the game down in some regards, to speed up the clock, limit possessions, and win that way, and also have the ability to have Allen go Superman when he needs to, right? Mm-hmm. Like when he scored on 4th down against the Chiefs during the regular season. That's always in their back pocket, right? So to me, that makes them much more difficult to stop. Like, Leif, if you're a Chiefs fan, what are you most concerned about this week in terms of containing the Bills' offense?
I think it's Josh Allen. I think everybody's afraid that they're going to see Josh Allen at his best, and we probably will. I think his running ability, his just command of that offense, and the fact that they run the ball so well, like you mentioned. I'm a big fan of Cook too. I love what Buffalo does offensively. I will say I think this Chiefs team is better at stopping the run this year than they have been in years past. Those linebackers are really, really playing well. Chris Jones, obviously, in the middle. The Chiefs are a better tackling team here in this year and last year than they have been in the past. And I give credit to Steve Spagnuolo on that. It'll be interesting to see. You watch Spagnuolo's defense, and early on, it'll look a little vanilla perhaps. I wouldn't be surprised the Bills take an opening drive, go down and get a touchdown. It looks, what are we doing here? And slowly you start seeing Spagnuolo dial up a couple of blitzes. He always has something in the pocket, to pull out in the second half or later in the game that will turn the corner for that defense. He has really done a masterful job, I think, with this defense this year.
Yeah, the Chiefs really held the Bills' running game in check this season more than almost anybody has in the first meeting between the two. 31 carries for the Bills, but only averaged 3.4 yards per carry, wow. And Josh Allen's the leading rusher with 55 yards. I mean, they really held James Cook down. 9 carries, 20 yards, 2.2 per carry. I mean, that's probably not going to cut it if the Bills are kind of playing the same game they have been throughout the course of this season.
And that's why I lean towards the passing game is going to show back up in this. They won't totally go away from the run as we saw against the Ravens. They stuck to it, almost made you sick some of the time that they stuck to it in this one. We always hear it's all about the battle of the trenches, Leif, and the Bills' offensive line has really held their own against two of the top defenses so far in the playoffs. What's the concern there from the Kansas City side?
Well, the concern has been left tackle all season long. The Chiefs are on their 4th left tackle. Joe Thuney, who has been an all-pro left guard, has moved out to left tackle. The Chiefs tried to get a rookie there. They've DJ Humphries, who they signed, not quite healthy and ready to go. That left tackle position has been a problem. Thuney has manned the fort and done a very, very good job for the Chiefs. Even though he is not really a true tackle, he's done a good job, and I would expect he's going to be there on Sunday as well. Defensively, George Karlaftis is really an underrated pass rusher. I mean, he has really become a premier pass rusher in this league and is a nice complement to Chris Jones now. Menahue has played well for the Chiefs. Turk Wharton is another guy that will put some pressure on the quarterback. This defensive line is pretty good. The Chiefs offensively, that offensive line has had some problems, and I think that's the biggest concern in Kansas City was they were not protecting Patrick Mahomes, and you saw Patrick Mahomes get pretty uneasy in the pocket. He was not happy after games, not singling out the offensive line, but just you could just read the body language, right? You watch him drop back, and he just was not comfortable. I think some of that has been eased a bit, but I think they'll get a pretty good test on Sunday.
Leif, as the Chiefs have reshaped their images to more of a defensive ball control type of team, they've really hit some home runs in the draft on the defensive side of the ball. You mentioned Karlaftis. McDuffie is a star. I mean, that's really been the key to their success there, because when you're paying Pat all that money, right, and dealing with that and getting rid of Tyreek Hill, you've got to have your defense and younger guys step up.
Absolutely. Nick Bolton was a great find in the draft. They're going to have to decide whether they're going to pay him after this season. Drew Tranquill, a nice pickup from the Chargers. Leo Chanel has just been a monster, and he is really, I think, even in Kansas City, maybe a little bit underrated. But that guy is a playmaker and an absolute beast, a freak athlete who was I think the offensive and defensive player of the year in Wisconsin when he was in high school. I mean, this guy, I guess in the weight room, puts on shows that are just unbelievable. But he's a playmaker on defense at linebacker. And I think that core of linebackers, look, I mean, the Chiefs had Willie Lanier, Bobby Bell, and Jim Lynch in their heyday, and they won Super Bowl IV. These three, I think, are almost as good. I mean, you may not have a Hall of Famer among those three, but as a group, that group has really led the way, I think. Chris Jones is going to do what he does. Mike Pennell has been picked up by the Chiefs a couple of times, and he's just a space eater inside and has made a big difference on that Chiefs defensive line. But I go back to the tackling. The Chiefs, even in their first Super Bowl win under Andy Reid, were not a very good tackling team. I mean, you would see teams break tackles against the Chiefs. You don't see that as much anymore. You don't see the broken coverages that you saw before very often anymore. They have really locked themselves down on defense, and it's the reason that they're the number one seed in the AFC this year.
8 sacks against the Texans. C.J. Stroud taken down a lot. That's cause for concern out here. But again, Josh Allen, maybe give him a little more credit than C.J. Stroud on being able to get away from pressure like that.
Absolutely, and I think that's the concern in Kansas City, at least from everybody I talk to, is that you put pressure on Josh Allen and he takes off, and there's another 20, 30-yard pickup. That will be the key. How do you defend Josh Allen? Do you try to spy him? What do you do to keep that guy from beating you? And I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see Bolton or Chanel, try to either spy him or try to contain Josh Allen and not let him break away for those long runs. But he is so good at that, and he is so physical as a runner too. I mean, he's like having a Derrick Henry back there.
Yeah, that's honestly been the key to this Bills team is Allen's ability to limit the sacks, fewest in the league, and to take care of the football. And that's really changed the identity of this Bills team. It's been the talk for years. Well, Allen's great, but he's going to throw 15 picks, right? Or he's going to take some inopportune times to throw the ball into harm's way. He's not doing that now.
Or lateral a ball that he shouldn't lateral.
He almost did it last week, and he admitted he almost
Travis
did it last
Kelce?
week.
Yeah. We've seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we talk about Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy. I'm often curious about this with how the Bills' pass catchers are set up this year on what the opponent looks at when they see the Bills, because there isn't one guy or even two guys that pops out. Everyone, one day it's Khalil Shakir gets his catches. One day it's Amari Cooper, Dalton Kincaid, yada, yada. The running backs show up in the passing game. When you look at this Bills passing game, how do you defend it? There's no couple of guys to lock in on.
Right, and Trent McDuffie has been a lockdown corner for the Chiefs this year, and getting Watson back here for the postseason will be big for the Chiefs as well. It'll be interesting to see how they line up McDuffie, what you do with him. Do you put him on somebody and say, we're going to lock down a side, or do you play it more straight up? That's a good question. And I don't know. With the running ability of Josh Allen, I don't know how that changes what the Chiefs are going to try and do defensively, to be honest with you. It'll be really interesting to see early in that game how they line up and how they defend that. And because I think Josh Allen is such a wild card in that the danger of man is you turn your back and you're covering, and Josh Allen takes off. And Mahomes has done that to teams as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how they approach this. I honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think this could be a case, too, where the Bills, because of the defensive backs, because of Watson, because of McDuffie being so good, maybe this is a game where you do see more from the tight ends, where you do see more from Dalton Kincaid and from Dawson Knox, who everybody says that Dalton Kincaid's the pass catcher and kind of the starting tight end, but that just really has not been the case this season. They've relied actually much more on Dawson Knox, and I think he's had the better year than Dalton Kincaid, but both guys certainly capable, and maybe that's a spot where the Bills haven't used it a lot, or maybe as much as people thought. Maybe that's a wrinkle in the offense this week where they can try to take advantage.
Absolutely. I love a little history. Let's do a little history. I found this amazing. First pair of non-divisional rivals to meet 9 times in 5 seasons since the Bills' Jack Kemp and the Chiefs' Len Dawson in the 60s, which just blows my mind the history these two teams who aren't in the same division, Leif, have had since the beginning of football almost.
Yeah, isn't that something? And, I go back to, Marty Schottenheimer, who coached the Chiefs for years, played for Buffalo, so we always heard those history lessons as well. It's been a great rivalry. I mean, it really has. I mean, the old AFL teams, going at it, and it's going to do nothing but continue. You got to think with Mahomes and Josh Allen going head to head for years to come. It's been a lot of fun to watch. I mean, obviously, maybe a little more fun in the Kansas City side during the postseason, but it is a great rivalry. And for years it was as I mentioned, the Broncos and John Elway, Kansas City and the Raiders, whether Oakland, LA, or now Las Vegas, those were always the heated rivalries. But now the Chiefs, pretty much beat the Raiders on a constant basis. They've dominated the AFC West. So I do see the Buffalo Bills now as the biggest rival, because every time they play, it's for something important. It's a meaningful game, and that's kind of what rivalries are all about, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. Chiefs beat the Bills in the AFL Championship to go to Super Bowl I as well. Right. So there's that connection there. Andy, of course, for the Bills, it's got to get over the hump. We went to 4 straight Super Bowls, never won any. Now we have a team that mirrors, if not is better on paper than what those Bills teams of the 90s was. But here you are, you're just stuck with the Chiefs in front of you, and that's the big bugaboo with Bills Mafia.
It's really awesome to watch because it's kind of a story that we've seen play out throughout the NFL over the years, where you have a couple of guys at the peak of their powers, right? Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. I mean, if you don't think they're in the top 2 of quarterbacks, they're in the top 4 probably, right? You can debate about Patrick or about Lamar Jackson, about Joe Burrow, and a couple of other guys. But, I mean, a lot of people think those are the top 2 quarterbacks in the NFL. But, yeah, you look at, like, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Peyton Manning couldn't win it till he finally did, right? Steve Young couldn't win it till he finally did. So it just takes that. I mean, even Andy Reid took a change of scenery for him. He went year after year after year with the Eagles to the NFC Championship and once to the Super Bowl, couldn't get over the hump. And then he was with the Chiefs for a long time before they finally did it, right? It just you can't base it on the past, because every year and every team and every season is different. And it may or may not happen, but this is maybe the year where it can, and you got to think that way if you're a Bills player or fan.
Random, this just popped into my head, so correct me if I'm wrong. But didn't the Bills play some role in Mahomes ending up on the wasn't that a trade too?
It sure was, yeah.
I mean,
You guys ended up with 3 Pro Bowlers out of the trade. Okay?
Right.
So don't cry too much. Okay, but yes, indeed. And back to my point, why would you ever trade with the Chiefs again?
When you said that earlier, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's right, too.
I was at that draft, and it was Tre'Davious White, and the Chiefs traded up with the Bills, the 27th pick up to the 10th. Of course, everybody knows they take Patrick Mahomes and win 3 Super Bowls. And
everyone out here complains until Josh Allen shows up.
Right. The Bills get Tre'Davious White and then Allen the next year. And it's been so much fun to watch these two guys who Bills fans, I think, believe the same way in Josh Allen that the Chiefs fans do in Patrick Mahomes because for the most part, Josh Allen has been magnificent in the playoffs. He's had a couple of clunkers, one against the Bengals a couple of years ago, and then his first playoff run was against Houston, that game where he lateraled out of nowhere to Dawson Knox, and you're forgiven there. But for the most part, he's hung right with Mahomes and even sometimes played better, but it just, for whatever reason, the teams overall, it's Kansas City who's come out on top.
Leif, the chase for 3 in a row for the Chiefs looms large for them. History does not look well when a team goes for 3. 49ers lost to the Cowboys in the NFC Championship in 1990. Cowboys returned the favor, lost to the 49ers in the NFC Championship in 1994. The pressure on this team and how they went through the regular season with just really the one loss, and that was to the Bills, to get back to the Super Bowl and win it again. You had those Patriots teams that one would think, didn't they win 3 in a row? No, they never won 3 in a row. No. So there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah, no, and if I'm not mistaken, all the repeat winners, the furthest they got was to the championship game. I believe it's 3, 49ers, Cowboys, Steelers perhaps.
Yeah.
More teams that were coming off a second Super Bowl win did not even make the playoffs than made it to the AFC Championship game, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, how incredible that is that you come off a double Super Bowl win and not even make it to the postseason, which I think even speaks to the accomplishment that the Chiefs have been able to do this season. Andy Reid does not. I think they do a great job of not looking that far ahead. They've never talked about three-peat. They don't talk about history. It's what's in front of us next, and it's boring, and it's a cliche. But it's next man up. What do we got next? What do we got next? And you hear the players talk that, and I think Andy Reid he instills that in his players that it's this game. It doesn't three-peat is over here somewhere. This is the Bills. Then you play in the Super Bowl. Then you can talk about three-peat. But there is no talk in amongst the players anyway about a three-peat. Kansas City would be over the moon to be able to do something that Tom Brady wasn't able to do, or that the great Patriot teams were never able to do, and that's a three-peat. I mean, it would. I mean, Richard Baldinger, who does the show with me in Kansas City, when Andy Reid won his third Super Bowl, he said he's going to go down as the greatest coach in NFL history. Mm-hmm. And I said, Richard, even Bill Belichick, he said, if Andy Reid wins 3 straight championships, he will be considered a greater coach than Bill Belichick. And I think he's probably right. Andy Reid he may not have the total, but pulling off this three-peat, if they're able to do it, I think might be one of the greatest coaching accomplishments of all time.
Lombardi never did it. Don Shula never did it.
It's so hard to argue with that, especially with how the team has transformed for all these times they've gone to the Super Bowl, from that high-powered offense with Tyreek Hill that everyone looked at to what they have now. Let's do this as we start to get ready to wrap up. Non-superstar player that we've been talking about who will have an impact in this game. And for me, it's Tyler Bass, especially how things ended in the divisional round last year. I'm going to stick with the kicker, Leif, for the Bills, that he's going to play a role, good or bad, on how the outcome of this game is going to go.
Interesting. I'm going to go Leo Chanel. He has had a tendency to make big plays, whether it's blocking a field goal. In the Super Bowl, he had a big-time strip. Chiefs linebacker Leo Chanel, either on special teams or on defense, I think is going to make a big-time play in this game.
This is a guy that I've stuck with all season long for an unsung hero, and it's Ty Johnson. he just continues to make plays. He's the Bills' third down running back. He's trusted in pass protection. He's out there almost as much as James Cook at times, and they really trust him in the passing game. And I think that's something where maybe that's a guy they look to make a big play in a key moment.
All right. From BetMGM, Chiefs -2 in this one. I mean, you guys can disagree with me. I think that sounds about right with how these two teams have played each other, Leif.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree. I think this is a field goal game. It's and to your point, maybe the kicker makes the difference, but I it's going to be close. It's going to be 2-3 points.
Yeah, this is right on, and I think that past history has shown these teams are probably going to play it close, and you're going to be right in that range of a pick'em game because they're playing at home, right? The Chiefs are playing at home, so they get a little bit of the bump there, but this is going to come down to probably a final drive for somebody.
Yeah, and we don't have to pick winners, but I the over-under at 47.5, I just see this game not one of those big, high offensive games like we saw a few years ago. I think this one's a little bit more controlled, Leif. Under.
Yeah,
Take the under.
Under. I'm going under. I agree with that. I do like the under. This is a little different Chiefs team. I think Vegas and the nation kind of still thinks the Chiefs as the Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes Chiefs. They're not that kind of the numbers anymore. Yeah, I like the under.
Yeah, I would say so too. This strikes me as something in the line of a 24-21, 24-20 type of game.
All right.
I'll go under. Now we got to root for people not to score, right? Betting the under is the worst.
I talk to my dad every week. He's like, I'll never take the under. I'm always going to go with the over. I don't care.
We're not putting the mortgage on this, right?
No.
We're just talking. Okay.
Yeah. 3-and-out. NFC Championship game. Commanders, Eagles. Tough call on that one. I just love watching the Commanders and what they've been doing. But the Eagles, Leaf, just seem way too tough and destined to get there, especially with home field advantage in this one.
Man, I really like the Commanders, and I love Daniels. A rookie quarterback this far in the championship game on the road. I think you got to take the Eagles, but God, the Commanders have been a great story.
Yeah, I like the Eagles too. Jaden Daniels is fantastic. He's vaulted himself into that C.J. Stroud territory, maybe even better from last season, into that conversation of your top 5, maybe that next tier of great young quarterbacks. But the way that the Eagles run the football and play defense, and Saquon Barkley has just been fantastic. What a revelation there he's been for them. I think the Eagles have just enough, although it wouldn't shock me if the Commanders were somehow able to pull it off.
Yeah, all right. The coaching cycle continues for head coaches. This one happening today made me kind of laugh when I saw it. Patriots bringing back Josh McDaniels to be their offensive coordinator, I just think is a bit much. I know they brought Vrabel back, and that was out there like, oh, maybe they bring – but come on, what are we doing here?
Getting the band back together, huh?
Right.
Maybe they get one more run. This to me, there for the longest time, and it's still kind of that way. I mean, every team is looking for one of the Backstreet Boys, right? One of the young, good-looking guys that can call an offense. I'm telling you, Steve Spagnuolo got kind of a bad shake, I think, with the Rams in his 2 years there. I think this guy is a head coach waiting to happen. Somebody is going to give him a chance. Unfortunately for him, the Chiefs keep making deep playoff runs. I would take a look at him. I really would. And I know, defensive guys aren't necessarily the what people are looking for. A guy in his 60s probably isn't what, isn't the splashy hire. This guy's a heck of a football coach, and he can coach defense. And with the proliferation of offense, why wouldn't you want a defensive guy to kind of stop this stuff? Mm-hmm. Watch the Chiefs defense on Sunday and tell me that Spagnuolo shouldn't be a head coach. Players love him. They love him. And I can't understand why he's not hired.
Andy, the guys on the local sports radio out here today were kind of joking around that Steve Spagnuolo might become the first defensive coordinator to go into the Hall of Fame. He's that good.
He might be the MVP, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he is fantastic.
I mean it.
Yeah, the way that he draws up blitzes and just makes life miserable for opposing quarterbacks and offensive coordinators, it's really tremendous. And like you, Leif, I'm stunned he's not gotten more of a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, guys, should the team that we cover lose on Sunday, What's the plan, Leif? I mean, you've been going to the Super Bowl or covering Super Bowls for a while. Do you maybe just want a break and sit at home and watch a Super Bowl?
I think I got that week X'd out on my calendar. Is that still good? Are you looking for you're looking for a wager? Is that what you're looking for? Or are you just looking for a week in New Orleans? Is what you're
no. What I'm doing is, so here's how it's been for me. I usually have plans to go to New Hampshire to go skiing with my family. Should the Bills not get to the Super Bowl, and we all watch the Super Bowl after skiing all day, and my niece texts me, I'm a Kansas City fan. I want you to come up to go skiing. And there's part of me that's like, I know you're my niece, but enough's enough, man. So I guess my question was, should you not be going to the Super Bowl? Are there backup plans that you have? But obviously not.
No. You know what? Listen, I've lived through this all my life. I'm a lifelong Kansas City, and I've worked in sports here 40 plus years. In the old days, the weather man at my old station, Fred Broski, and I used to go play golf in Arizona. And the day that the Chiefs were eliminated from playoff contention, which was usually pretty early from, say, 1980 all the way through, say, 93, we would make plans to go play golf in Arizona. We'd go down there for 2 weeks and play golf. The Chiefs have ruined all those postseason plans now. You may get a bye week, but now you got to plan those vacations. You got to go to Cabo after the Super Bowl, and that's just the way. That's the price you pay after not going to the Super Bowl for 50 years. Okay, so listen, if the Chiefs don't get to go, I hope you get to go and enjoy it, because it's an experience that you'll never ever forget. I mean, it's a great week of football, and by Friday you'll be thinking, what that Lisec guy talking about? I'm ready to go play football. This is brutal, man. How many more questions? Because for the 2 days that you're down there, they bring every player into the ballroom. I mean, every player is standing in the ballroom, and you can go ask anybody anything you want. And the first day you're like a kid at Christmas. Second day you're like, I got nothing else. What else we got? And the players don't want to see anymore. They're ready to go play. But I hope if the Chiefs aren't there, I would be happy that you would get to go.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, that was one thing I have not done in my 20-year career. Is cover a Super Bowl yet, so that would be cool. It is what it is. If it's not, we'll,
life goes on.
Book the trip to Cancun or maybe Galveston, Texas, as Charles Barkley says.
Waste Management Open is always on the bucket list. Oh, before we go, how do Kansas City fans feel about all the memes that are out there that say the refs are basically on the Chiefs' side I could assume everyone just can't stand it as much as the rest of the country is sick of Andy Reid and Mahomes being on every commercial.
Bunch of crybabies. That's you know what? I mean, honestly, we do the post-game shows, and we've done it with Richard for years. Patrick Mahomes got less protection than any quarterback in America for the first 5 years he played in the NFL, which I could never understand. I mean, this guy is the golden goose of the NFL right now, and he didn't get called on the late hits, the hits out of bounds. Patrick Mahomes was the least protected quarterback in the NFL. Now, maybe does he get the benefit of the doubt? Maybe. But I saw two former NFL referees say that both those penalties against the Texans were legitimate, and they would have called it the same way. I think it's just sour grapes. It goes from you're the hero until you're not, right? And then everybody wants to see him fail. But in Kansas City, it's sour grapes.
Yep. I saw a stat today that Josh Allen actually gets far more roughing the passer calls by percentage than Patrick Mahomes.
Josh Allen flops a lot.
He does.
Okay, we have a joint.
But here's the thing, though. And Mahomes is a bigger guy than you think too. Josh Allen is a big guy. Okay, I mean, and if you're going to bring him down, you're going to have to bring some force behind it. I mean, you're not going to bring him down with an arm tackle. So it's a catch-22 with him, right? I mean, he's like a running back, and I understand defenders problems with the calls when you're expected to tackle a quarterback who's a running back basically, but then he gets protection when he gets out of the pocket too. I feel for the defenders in that, but all legitimate calls against the teams that have played the Chiefs so far.
Well, then it's that catch-22 we saw in the Pittsburgh playoff game for the Bills a couple of years ago. It looked like Allen was about to slide. guy kind of pulled up, and then he takes off and scores a 60-yard touchdown, right?
And Patrick Mahomes has done the same thing.
Yep.
So it looks like he's going out of bounds, and he'll cut it back up and run down the sideline. So it does work both ways, doesn't it?
All right, this game's going to be big. We can talk a lot about this. We are a joint special coming up to get you ready for the AFC Championship on the TV side of things on Spectrum News in Buffalo, in Rochester, New York, Western New York, and out in Kansas City. The road to the championship. It's underway now. It's going to air in both markets. Leif is going to join us with your partner there. Why am I blanking on his name?
Richard Baldinger.
Richard Baldinger. Andy and I will be
you
on
gotta have
there.
a Baldinger on the show. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's going to air Thursday night, 8 o'clock in Eastern Time, 7 o'clock out in Kansas City, and I'm so looking forward to it. We'll continue the conversation there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a blast. Can't wait to talk about the AFC Championship, and then I can't wait to head out to Arrowhead, get some barbecue, and have some fun this weekend. I'm going to enjoy covering this AFC Championship game.
Leif, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you on the TV side of things.
Enjoyed it, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see you then.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.